Welcome to the final chapter of Hiking Gear Unveiled, Finding Your Soulmate. In this episode, we're going to detail all the intricacies of hiking footwear. We're going to explore the foundations that are going to carry you through every adventure you go on, ensuring your comfort, your stability, and a little bit of style on the trail. Why not? You got low top, mid top, high top. Finding the right shoe for your specific adventure is going to be super important. Protecting your feet is definitely on the top of the list when it comes to your hiking wardrobe. If I only had one shoe, I would for sure tell you which one it is at the end of the episode. Let's get into it, guys. All right, let's first start with things that are going to apply to all shoes, whether they're high top, mid top, low top, anything like that. Breathability and weather resistance. So breathability first.
Shoes are the best kind of shoes.
With your feet, like your other layers of clothing, you want to make sure you don't get wet and moist and it stay there. You're constantly going to be generating that heat, which is going to generate sweat, which is going to have that moisture cause problems in the way of blistering, rubbing, hot spots, and generally just like a gross feeling on your foot. So having a reasonable amount of breathability,
What's that smell?
is going to be super important. A lot of that's provided by the sock, but don't underestimate the effect that the shoe can have on that. So when I talk about breathability in a shoe, some have different features. So like on this particular shoe, there's some vents on the side that allow air in and out. Some don't have them, but the materials they use are specifically designed to allow that breathability to happen. Really, the best way to go about this is trying on shoes and taking a look at the materials. Sometimes it's not as magical as you think. Sometimes it's as magical as picking up the shoe and being like, I can see through the sides of this one. It's going to have excellent breathability compared to a shoe where you're looking, it's like heavily lined. Now, both have their advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's always prudent to keep in mind that you need some form of breathability in a shoe. Otherwise, you're just going to get bogged down. I'm bringing up weather resistance kind of in the same breath, if you will, as breathability, because those two kind of shift with each other. The more breathability you get, generally speaking, you're going to get less weather resistance. But you want weather resistance if you know you're going to be in some place that's particularly wet. The forecast is showing a lot of rain. You're in snow, all different kinds of variables. But when you're making strategy for your trip and you know certain things, you might want to lean in the direction of something with more weather resistance because you know you're going to need it. If you're in the desert, you might know you're going to want even more breathability. And yes, there's shoes that have a fair amount of both.
It's the best of both worlds, so.
You're just going to want to keep both those things in mind and know that normally they're going to be kind of leaning the bias of the shoe's performance towards weather or towards breathability. That doesn't mean there's not a nice place where they come together, but they are going to lean one way or the other. So kind of an obvious thing that you think about with shoes is fit, but I want to talk to you about a few specifics around fit that are really going to come in handy for you when you're on the trail. So the first of which I want to talk about is width. Generally speaking, the width in the toe box of your shoe is going to become paramount while you're on the trail for multiple reasons as it compares to like maybe your daily shoe. The amount of space you need for your foot when you're constantly stepping down like 10, 20, 40, 50,000 times more than you normally do, you're going to want that space for your foot to open for multiple reasons. A, for comfort, because you don't want it pushing up against the sidewall of your shoe the whole day. And two, it's going to allow you that little extra room so that you're not rubbing, creating blisters and hot spots. Another thing that's really worth mentioning is if you're at altitude for an extended period, your foot's going to swell.
Oh, my swollen feet.
So you're actually going to need that space to actually fit your all of a sudden bigger foot. Now, it's not substantial, but having a slightly wider toe box in general, I believe is a really good way to go in your footwear. So if you're trying a hiking shoe on or any shoe that you're wanting to wear for long periods and be on your foot for long periods of time, you're going to want a little bit more space than maybe you would notice if you're not thinking about it. The next thing I want to talk about is cushion. Cushion in shoes is huge. Some have less, some have more. A common misconception, in my opinion, is that cushion is a little bit overestimated. Most people want tons of cushion because then you're not taking as much impact. And it's like, well, yeah, that's true, but you lose a lot of feel of the trail. So you can't feel the unevenness under your foot as well. Your stability goes down. You have a higher tendency to roll your ankles because you're actually higher up. And when you catch like that root on the trail where you totally would have just stood on it and taken a step, now you're rolling on it. And so you want to tread that line kind of finely. You want to have enough cushion to where you're comfortable and you're getting some impact resistance, but where you're not walking so high that you're actually rolling your feet more, and it's actually more painful than it would have been if you had less cushion and more feel on the trail. Now, a lot of this is up to personal preference. Some people are going to be like, I don't need as much feel. I would rather have the cushion. Some people are going to lean towards the other way. Point of the story is, don't just assume you need tons of cushion and it's going to be better. Next thing I want to talk about is your tread. On your trail shoes, your hiking shoes, you're going to want to make sure there's a good tread there for obvious reasons. You want to have good grip in all kinds of different weather conditions. There's a certain amount of give and a certain amount of firmness, and you really want a little bit of both. The give is going to allow it to have that nice grip onto things, and the firmness is going to add quite a bit of durability and ruggedness to the shoe. You don't want it to wear out in a single day. When you're on wet surfaces or wet rocks, having a little bit more grip, i.e. a less durable sole, is going to be ideal. You're going to get way better grip, but you are going to wear them out faster. So most companies have integrated a really nice compound to where you're getting the best of both worlds, but you're going to find some personal preferences in there, and it's just something that you want to keep in mind when you're looking at the bottom of a shoe. Now, generally, the tread patterns aren't overly crazy. Any good trail shoe is going to have enough contact points where you're getting a reasonable traction.
Show us the goods.
I've assembled a collection of shoes over the last couple years. I'm going to walk you through the shoes that I have and why I have them. Let's start right here. So we'll kind of start with the low top stuff and we'll go from there. These are the Ultra Temp 4s. The Temp 5s are either coming out or just came out, but they're very similar. I love these shoes. So they have actually a reasonable amount of cushion on a trail shoe, but they're not overly cushy, and I feel really stable on them. They kind of hit a sweet spot for me. Actually, daily, these shoes. These are like what I wear to my job every day. They're like super comfortable. Really lightweight, nice compound. We talked about that earlier. This particular temp is extremely breathable. So if you were in wet conditions, your foot would inevitably get wet. There's a little bit of protection around the edges and stuff. So a splash here and there and your foot's not going to get soaked. But this membrane on top is highly breathable. I like that because it keeps my feet dry. I don't want to have those hot spots come up. I don't want to have those blisters come up. So when the terrain / weather is permitting, I really like to wear a breathable shoe. They do have some holes here, which I will tell you are really good for ventilation. The one drawback of them is you do tend to get dust into the shoe. It's not overly cumbersome, otherwise I wouldn't have it, but it is something to keep in mind if you've kind of worn a shoe like this that has ventilation built in and you notice your foot is like crazy dirty. That's more than likely where it's coming from. But all in all, I personally think it's worth it because it's just that extra bit of breathability. Another thing I like about these shoes is they have a little Velcro tab in the back that allows you to attach the ankle gaiters to them, and then they link onto this little loop up front so you can get that ankle protection on there. I love them. They have the wide toe box. Ultra is really well known for. They have the zero drop. Zero drop is just making sure that your foot is not set automatically at an angle. It's flat, so you're in a neutral position. Now, this is going to vary if you have some foot problems or some just definitive personal preferences. I'm not like a zero drop advocate or anything, but I do think from a base level, it makes a lot of sense to be in the most stable position you can. I don't want to automatically be on my toes because my heel is up. Again, that can vary from person to person due to anatomy, but in general, I really like that idea, and I've had a lot of success in that. I know Matt has worn zero drop wide toe box shoes, and like we're both pretty big believers in it. So if you haven't looked into it, it could be game changing for you. Definitely check that out. I want to move on from the Temp 4s and I want to talk about the Lone Peaks. So Lone Peak 6 all weather is what I have in front of me here. The reason I have another low top shoe is these are the all weather version. So where these were porous and will allow the moisture to come in, these have a breathable but water resistant material. So the breathability gone down a notch, but still breathable. And it's going to give me much better wet weather protection. So if I know I'm going to be in a place where I have some stream crossings or there's not snow yet, but a little bit of the melt off isn't completely done, I know I'm going to be splashing around a little, or flat out, it's predicted rain, I'm going to be wearing these. It's just going to give me that little bit of extra, whereas I might be missing a little on the breathability, but it's going to be overall way drier than having a completely breathable shoe and getting rained on or know I'm walking in wet terrain. The all-weather versions of the Lone Peaks do not have the gaiter attachment here, so you would either need a different style gaiter or go without.
Oh, man.
The treads on these are very similar to what's on the Temp 4s. I really like the treads on the Lone Peaks. Good grip. I believe this is the same compound, which has been all around good for me. The one thing I will say about compounds on particularly Ultras is they definitely bias a softer, grippier compound. From my experience, it is the ultimate in performance. The drawback is, and I'm just gonna give it to you straight, they wear out quick. There's no getting around it. The durability of the shoe and everything, I really believe in. I think they're great, but these soles will wear out. I told you I daily at Ultras, and they last long enough for me that I'm not mad about it, but I do want to make you aware, like, the soles on those shoes wore out faster than any of those shoes I've worn. You get the trade-off, though. You get having that crazy good grip on trail, and to me, it's totally worth it. I would rather have that grip and buy a shoe again than have a less comfortable, less sturdy, less reliable shoe that lasts longer. Now, that's a personal preference thing. I totally get it, but beware of that and kind of knowledgeable there. I just happen to like have an affinity for the 6. At some point, I'm not even going to be able to find a pair anymore because they moved on. But definitely check out Lone Peaks if you haven't checked them out before. I wouldn't quote me on this.
Oh, you mean off the record?
But I think I've read in an article that they're the most commonly worn trail running shoe for hikers, and maybe just flat out the most worn shoe in general. They're like kind of a little bit of, I wouldn't say legend, but they've got an incredible reputation. So there you go. There's my 2 low tops, all weather, more breathable. You get the idea. Let's move on to high top / mid top kind of section here. Here I've got Lone Peak all weathers. So they're going to have that breathable membrane, but it's going to give you that protection. I really like these shoes. I wore them on a trip. They gave really good support, really good grip. Also 0 drop, also wide toe box. The reason you go with mid top is dependent on terrain. For me, if I know there's going to be a lot of rock underfoot, if I know there's going to be a lot of uneven ground, I kind of like that little bit of extra ankle support. And also, if you're in real cold, if you're in substantially colder weather, you know, it kind of sounds silly, but like it is kind of encapsulating your foot more. So a lot of personal preference in there. It is more area that can possibly rub on you, so having a good fit is going to be paramount. I really like these shoes, highly recommend. So these mid tops are my non-all-weather version. They're more breathable than the other ones I showed you. You're kind of seeing a theme. I have 2 lows and I have 2 mids. One's an all-weather, one's breathable. These are the Temps. They're going to be a little bit more cushioned than the Lone Peak. These have Vibram soles on them, so the compound is really grippy and really durable, slightly more durable than some of the compounds that Ultra's been using in the past. I haven't worn these yet. I really look forward to testing them out, so I don't want to speak too much on this shoe until I actually wear it and use it, but I'm really excited about it. Really nice weight. Like, these are super light. I couldn't even begin to tell you, like, I was shocked. They're definitely lighter than the Lone Peaks by a little bit. Okay, so another pair of mids that I got that are actually, I've just been kind of wearing casually because I really like them. These are actually REI's budget trail made line, I believe is what it's called.
Spit it out.
Yeah, it is TrailMade. I'm totally right. I just saw it on the bottom there. Good cushion, nice grip, reasonable fit. They're a little bit heavier, but not by much. The comfort on these is crazy. I read a couple reviews about these from guys, and guys were talking like, I will continue to buy these because I got these for like $43, and like I've worn them around, and for casualing, they're great, which is generally a good sign. If you have a lot of comfort and like no rubbing and problems, like they could do really well on the trail. I just wanted to mention these as a nice budget option. I don't have a ton of REI gear, but the gear that I have gotten from them, I've been really happy with, and like this is definitely a promising alternative. I haven't trailed these yet. I have worn them a bunch, but I haven't trailed them, so I don't want to speak about those specifics. But as I mentioned a minute ago, it's a really good sign that I've put some good miles walking around in these, and like they're really comfy. Okay, so we're moving on. My personal treat on the trail is camp shoes.
Oh, interesting. Continue.
Don't overlook your camp shoes. When you get into camp after a long day of hiking, you want to let your feet breathe. You want to get those boots off. You want to get those shoes off. Have something really lightweight and just the most comfortable thing you can. Let your shoes kind of dry out a little if they've collected some moisture. My go-to is Crocs. They are really light, awesome ventilation. They have holes all over them, so my foot dries out and gets nice and dry. I love these things. They're durable enough around camp. I'm not getting like any pine cones under my feet or anything like that. They're great. So I don't want to talk too much about this, but find yourself a pair of sandals, flip-flops, Crocs, whatever it is. Get your feet out of those boots. Let your feet breathe. The first thing I do when I get to camp, backpack off, change shoes, then we get to work on whatever it is that we're doing. It feels so good. Now, after we've gone through all of that, my go-to shoe, if I can only pick one, would be the Lone Peaks, the all-weathers. The reason being, these all-weathers give me good protection from the moisture. I was shocked at how well they were breathing, even though they offered that protection. And these are just the all-arounders. They're lightweight, they're rugged, they're comfortable. Like, this is the best shoe that I have. I would go with them for sure. That wraps up episode 5 and the entire series of Hiking Gear Unveiled. I had a lot of fun bringing you all this information. I did want to let you know, we're more than likely going to be adding and updating as we go on more adventures and new options become available. So stick around and see what else we have coming on the horizon. There's so many options when it comes to wearable gear. When we ask you to comment and kind of tell us about your experiences or gear you used, we really do mean it. We're constantly wanting to learn and share. This is definitely a safe place to do that, so get on it. If you like this episode, heck, if you like this entire series, would like to see more content like this, please let us know. Hit that like button, share with your community, and hey, if you haven't already subscribed, do us a solid. It helps us so much, I couldn't even begin to tell you. Go ahead and subscribe. And remember, hitting that notifications bell is a really good way to not miss any of our new content. Keep it real and keep adventuring.